So, had a little bit of a problem with a passing truck deciding to hit my roof, and it's damaged it in two places, high up there, and then just on the edge here, low down, where I'd previously made a wooden gutter that was on there, lead lined wooden gutter, and that was destroyed as well, or certainly ripped off. So I've had an idea for how to limit the chances of this happening again, and I'm thinking to mount this wheelbarrow wheel about the distance where it will protect the gutter, and it's going to be mounted on motorcycle suspensions, 2 motorcycle suspensions and some metal framework, so that it will go in and out when it gets hit and rotate like so, hopefully, when they hit it. So because I'm sure it's going to happen again at some point. So that's the plan. I was struggling to bend the metal enough, so I thought I'd heat it. So I've got an old primer stove out the shed, which amazingly works. I don't know how long it's been since it's been running, and I shall try heating it with that and then bending it. Still takes a fair bit of bending, but it is a bit easier than it was before heating it. That might be enough. So I've bent a piece of metal into a sort of an S shape there, so it's going to go vertically up. The axle's going to be up this end here, and I've cut off a couple of pieces of angle iron that will go onto here. So one of them's going to go on the end. I'm going to weld these on. One of them's going on the end there like that, and then the other one will be just behind it there, and then I can drill through that with 16mm. I haven't got a 16mm drill, I have to do a 13 and then file it out. Those two will sit like that. The axle will go through there, and then this axle will sit on there, on those 2 bits of angle. So welded on those 2 bits of angle onto the end of my S-shaped piece of metal there. Not at all a good job welding, but I think it will stay together. As my grandfather used to say, a blind man will be pleased to see it, and that's about the only person who would be with that. But it will hold, I think. So I've cut a little bracket here from angle iron. This is going to attach onto the side of this one about there, like so. So I've got to weld that one on there, and then there's this bracket that's going to be attached to the wall here, and that little piece of angle is going to be welded onto there, like so. And eventually there'll be this suspension arm. It says motorcycle, but I think it's more likely mountain bike. Will be fitting to that bracket and to that one there, and there'll be a matching one the other way, which should provide this shock absorption. So just welded a bracket on. The one that's going to be attached to the wall, this is bent to the shape of the wall, welded a little bracket onto it, and the welding's getting a little bit better. I don't know if that's going to come out, but that's looking almost neat. Well, I had a slight change of plan with the method here. The original idea, I don't even know why I came up with it, was to have 2 shocks opposite each other like that. But I've realised that it will have a tendency to want to wobble, because these are just on bolts here and they're allowed to pivot. So if it was hit, I think the idea originally was if it was hit from either direction. You see what will happen here, this will be able to move, and as will the one the other way. So when it was to get hit, it would try and twist, and this will then, the metal will hit the actual shock there. So I need to try and keep it straight. So I suddenly thought, well, it's motorcycle suspension, So why not make it a swing arm, essentially? So instead of this one having another shock on it, if I have a rigid attachment this side, I'm going to weld this piece of angle in here and have a hinge down here and attach there'll be a plate here and a plate there, and it'll all be bolted together, and the plates will be welded there, and this will be welded to that. This will then be rigid but on a pivot there, so that then will allow it to just, that side will stay rigid, this side will just compress, and then this shouldn't twist, which will be easier on the fixing down the bottom here, because that's got to be rubber mounted or something anyway to allow this to move in and out. Or another hinge there might work just as well. Haven't thought of that bit yet. So I'm going to change plan completely. It gives me a couple of extra shocks to use for something else in future as well. These ones, quite good really. Okay. Right, so I'm finally getting somewhere now, I think. I've got the angle welded on there, which is going to act like the swing arm, with a hinge down here. That plate is welded to the piece that's attached to the wall. These will just be bolted, the screw will be, hinge will be bolted to these plates. So I'm just going to weld this one on here now. That's one of the last bits to be attached with welds, I think, in there. And then I can trim that end off there. And there'll be some finishing off, obviously trimming off these pieces at the top. Lots of grinding off of weld splatter. And painting. Well, that's the basic frame now put together. I've still got to work out what I'm going to fix this bottom bit, but that's less of an issue. I'll get it on the wall first, I think, then I can measure up what I need for that. So we've got a hinge this end. I don't know how well this is going to show with the sun. Hinge this end is just bolted on here so I can get it apart. Plates are welded. This is the swing arm, effectively, that's welded fixed. Somebody going by. And the suspension on this end should compress on the pivot axle of that hinge there, like a swing arm. That's the idea. The only thing I can have a problem at the moment, I tried standing on it, it's the first time I've been able to test this shock, and it doesn't move at all with my weight on it, so it seems as if it's a bit too stiff. So I'll probably have to change the spring. I've got it wound, the preload is wound off as far as it goes just before it comes completely loose. So maybe get a weaker spring for there. I'll have to see what's available. Right, well, I've got it mostly finished now, just the bottom attachment to sort out. I've just put one bolt into the wall there with an expansion, not an expansion, it's a rule plug fixing. Put a hole there. This is the one, rule plug fixing, put a big one that has a coach screw. That will go in when I tap that with a hammer a bit more. And then a decent sized sort of coach screw into it to hold it. So, quick test run. That is actually on the wall now. It is about the right distance out. I put the old gutter back on. This is a temporary fix that's on there at the moment, and tested it with that, and it's about right. So the theory is, if anything was to hit this, it will rotate, and if there's enough inward impact, the shock will compress and the hinge will move over here, so it works like a motorcycle swing arm that will compress there. So the two parts of the frame or the bare metal parts of the frame are ready to paint. I'm just going to give them a coat of black metal paint. Extreme for metal, it says. So yeah, I'm hoping this will do the job. I'm not sure, I couldn't really understand the instructions on it. I'm just going to paint it on and see what happens. Had one coat of paint, doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to give it a second coat and a light rub down with abrasive paper first. Quite thin, this paint actually, only needs a little tickle over so you go straight through. Both sections have now had 2 coats of paint. It does look a bit better with 2 coats. Obviously it's just brushed on, so it's a little bit rough, but yeah, it does look better. Well, I think that is the what I'm going to call truck deflector finished now. So what I've done is fixed it to the wall. I'll put some bits of foam behind here, just yoga mat foam. I don't think that's really doing a lot, it's just a little bit more cushioning. And I decided in the end, the bottom fixing, just to leave it like that, under pressure. And there's a piece of kneeling mat foam I've just cut to put in there. Because with the angle of the stones, when I tightened it, there's a lot of downward pressure on this, it's pushing in hard. Plus it will allow it to move when this swing arm effect shifts, so it will allow the bottom to move freely. So I think that'll do. I could make something later if needed, but it looks to me like it will work. Put the wheel on, so that now will rotate either direction nice and easily. It's very smooth, that. So the idea being, any force when this is hit will just deflect it. It'll just roll. If it needs to go inwards, the shock absorber can compress. Although this one I'm pretty sure is too stiff. You'd have to hit this so hard, but I think I need a softer one there. So I'm going to look for something when I get back to the UK. Just maybe a new spring, or maybe the whole new assembly. So I need to keep the measurements of that. This is something like, it says on it 1,200 pounds per inch. So I need to look for something that's less than that, I think. Anyway, I'd say that that's pretty good. So when I get back next time, I'll see if it looks as if it's been used. Just as a final little bit of experimental proof here, just hung a plumb line on the wheel, so you can see where the plumb line is hanging there. It's level with the curb, slightly in on the curb, so vertically the wheel is slightly back from the edge of the curb. So if you hit that wheel, you're already overhanging the pavement there, so I'd say you're too close.